Welcome to this edition of Go There on Fourth, this Christian video podcast on faith, football, and fantasy football. I just said video podcast. You can watch the video or you can listen to it wherever you download your favorite podcasts. As I'm getting started now, I'm here to recap my Week 9 experience with the NFL as far as my fantasy football team is concerned, share with you my game picks, how those worked out for me. But before we get on that, I just want to ask you, please be praying for this area where I live. It's Ravenna, Kentucky. There's been some wildfire stuff going on today and yesterday, so be praying for the families whose houses are kind of threatened by this in the path of these fires. Be praying for the team as they're working really hard trying to get this fire under control. And they've been working nonstop all day today, and I can see the smoke and some of the flames just over the hill behind the house here, so let's be praying for them and praying for the situation. Some things are more important than football, and that's people's livelihoods is one of them. Their lives are one of them. So let's recap how my Week 9 went. I was 69-53 on my game picks coming into Week 9. So I'm a good ways over 500. Coming off a solid Week 8. So let's jump in look how I did. For the Thursday Night Football, it was the Eagles versus Texans. I picked the Eagles. That one was a fairly easy pick, though. Turnovers really were the difference in the end. Yes, the Eagles played pretty well, but the Texans lost 2 fumbles. If you really look at the yardage, the Eagles had more yards in the game, but the Texans still had 300 yards of offense. They actually held the ball longer, so it really came down to those 2 lost fumbles from the Texans. So picked the Eagles to win. Eagles won that one. Chargers versus the Falcons. I picked the Chargers to win this one, even though I think the Falcons have a good chance to win the NFC South. And the Chargers won thanks to a ghost punch. I don't know if you saw the ending of this, but the ending of this game was bananas. Austin Eckler was, carrying the ball. He fumbles it. Picked up by Graham on the Falcons defense, one of the defensive linemen there. He's got a clear path. He's running down the field. All of a sudden, the ball just comes free from his hands. It's not hit. It doesn't hit any part of his being. He just drops the ball. So I'm just going to assume that it was a ghost punch that came and knocked out, or maybe one of the Chargers offensive players is a Jedi. But if you're a Jedi and you've been hiding your abilities till now, that's not very nice to your teammates. But anyway, I picked the Chargers to win. Chargers won that one. Dolphins versus the Bears. Dolphins got the win. I picked the Dolphins to win that one. But again, another week where we saw some improvement from Justin Fields. I don't know if maybe the offensive play calling has been changed to kind of better match his skill set, or if maybe Fields has just found some confidence about who he is within the offense. I'm not real sure what the difference is there, but I just noticed his stats continue to improve. He set the highest rushing mark for a quarterback in NFL history on Sunday with 178 yards rushing. So things are looking up. And if you've been a fantasy football player and had Justin Fields on your bench, hopefully you're being rewarded for your faithfulness and you're sticking to him on your team. I did not do that. I had him at the start of the year, but I ended up letting him go. So Panthers versus the Bengals. I picked the Bengals win, and the Bengals did in fact get the win. Although I was not expecting Joe Mixon to go off. He had over 200 yards of total offense and 5 touchdowns. Monster game from Joe Mixon. I think in our league he had well over 70 points, which is insane for a running back. Anyway, Packers versus the Lions. This is one of my upset picks for the week. I picked the Lions to upset the Packers and got it right. Aaron Rodgers threw 2 bad interceptions down in the red zone. At key points in the game. What I find it was interesting, Aaron Rodgers was on the Pat McAfee show today, like he is every Tuesday, and he mentioned that, while it looked like this was a bad loss and that the Lions defense did a lot to stop them, really if you look at the numbers, the turnovers were the key. The Lions defense still gave up their typical yardage. It was just the Packers weren't able to take advantage of the yards that they gained, and they had critical mistakes in critical moments. Colts versus the Patriots. I picked the Colts to win this one, not because I believe they would, but because I'm a Colts fan, and when you're a fan of a team, I believe that you should stick by their side no matter what you believe. So I still believe in you, Colts. I still believe even though we gave up 9 sacks and we had -2 yards of offense at the end of the first quarter. As a Colts fan, I'll just be honest. I liked Frank Reich. I think he's a solid guy. I thought he was a good leader. I thought he battled so many different challenges as the Colts coach. But I agree with this move to kind of part ways, and it was time for a change. Especially when you are an offensive-minded coach and your side of the ball is the one struggling the most. The offensive line has not lived up to their hype, and it's hard to do anything when the offensive line is not blocking the way they should. But it also doesn't help when you keep turning the ball over. So a lot of things to fix, a lot of things to correct. I'm very intrigued by the Jeff Saturday hire. I'll get to more of that here in just a minute. I picked the Colts to win, and the Colts did not win. Bills versus the Jets. Bills lose this one. I don't think, again, this is one of those games I don't think anybody picked right, unless you're a Jets fan. And kudos to the Jets fans for believing, because you're probably the only ones. But the Jets got the upset win here, and now the bigger story coming out of this game, more so than even the Jets beating the Bills, is the fact that Josh Allen's injury. That it's a big deal. Will he play? Will he not play? How much time will he miss? If he does play, how is it going to impact him in the game? It raises a lot of questions moving forward. Vikings versus the Commanders. This is another one where I picked an upset win. I believed in Taylor Heineke, but maybe I just got hopped up on Mountain Dew or something, because that was not a wise pick. The Vikings pick up a W. The Vikings are rolling. They're going to most likely win the AFC North, barring some catastrophic event that occurs. But that would be something the Vikings would do. Just when they got you believing, they come around and they say shame on you for believing in us. But anyway, what's amazing to me is Justin Jefferson. He's got 59 catches on the season, 867 yards so far through this season already. That's just 9 weeks in. Only 3 touchdowns, though, but I can only imagine that number is going to climb as the season moves forward. Raiders versus the Jaguars. I picked the Jaguars to win, and they did. They needed the Raiders to blow a 20-point lead to help them do so. And right now it seems like the Raiders' motto is there's no game we can't lose. And they seem to be finding creative ways to lose games. So I went 6-3 on the early games. Puts me at 75-56 on the season. So going strong on the early games. Usually it's the early games that get me. I get a little bit into making the upset pick. Maybe I get into the upset pick because you only have to get one of those right every once in a while. You don't have to get them all right. And people won't remember all the ones you got wrong. They'll remember the one you got right. So perhaps that's what I'm going for. It's not a conscious decision on my part, but that's kind of what's happening. Anyway, all right. Like I said, this is a podcast about faith, football, and fantasy football. So I always like to share a brief devotional as I'm doing these episodes. And this weekend, yesterday, my Colts went through a dramatic change. Right, they got rid of Reich early in the morning, and by mid-afternoon, the news broke out that they were going to be hiring Jeff Saturday to come in as the head coach. It's a shock to everyone, shock to me. Who saw this coming? I mean, typically an interim coach is picked from somebody that's already on the staff. They're familiar with the offense. They're familiar with the players and the coaches in the building. But that's not what happened here. That's not who they went with. They brought in Jeff Saturday. He's familiar with the organization. He's probably familiar with some of the coaches on the staff from playing with them and just being around the league. But he doesn't know the offense, doesn't know the playbook, but he's brought in because of his leadership abilities. And there was a lot made of Jim Irsay's press conference last night with Chris Ballard and Jeff Saturday announcing all this. And, some of it's legit, I would say. Some questioning. But I did like Jeff Saturday's poise. And I am intrigued by this idea. Because right now, Jeff Saturday is essentially playing with house money. He's essentially playing the free games on FanDuel, right? He's not actually putting money in himself. He's pretty much just running with what the house provides him with. And he has an opportunity to show that he does have what it takes to be a head coach in the NFL. It's an audition. No one expects the Colts to do anything from this point because of how poorly the offense has performed up till now. So either it's going to go really well really average or really poorly. And if it goes poorly, then the Colts lose, right? They can let Jeff Saturday go at the end of the year. He's tried it, tested it out, seen that it doesn't work, and he can move on. The Colts get a high draft pick. That's good. A chance to draft our next franchise quarterback. Or Jeff Saturday comes in, somehow finds a way to make it work, or does enough to make us all believe that, yeah, he is the guy moving forward. And he gets hired as the head coach. And we see what happens in the next several years. So really, this is an interesting situation that the Colts are in, and really nothing to lose. But anyway, one of the things I really appreciate about Jeff Saturday in this press conference was his attitude. He has just been named the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. Yes, he's in the interim. But there are only 32 jobs like this available in the NFL. Only 32. There's only 32 head coaches, and Jeff Saturday was picked to be one of them. That means Jim Irsay recognized his leadership abilities. Chris Ballard recognized his leadership abilities and that of Irsay's leadership abilities and his place in that role. But that's no discussion. But I can't remember exactly what wording Jeff Saturday used. But he was asked, well, how are you going to go about being the leader of this team? And essentially his answer was, yes, I'm the head coach, but I'm going to have to go out there and earn the respect of the other coaches. I'm going to have to earn the respect of the players on this team. And Jeff Saturday was highlighting a very important point, is that leadership is not a title. You know, I'm a pastor. That's a title. It's a title that implies that leadership involved. Some of you may have jobs where you're labeled the manager or the supervisor, CEO. You know, name. Put the letters out there. Those things come with the expectation of being a leader when those titles are given to us. But we're not a leader just because we're given a title. We are a leader because people follow us. People listen to our voice. We have the ability to influence the people that surround us. And that's not something that you get by just being given a title. That is something that is earned. John Maxwell, in his book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. If you've not read that book and you're in a leadership role, I highly recommend you reading it. And in the chapter that's called The Law of Influence, this is what he says. He says, true leadership cannot be awarded, appointed, or assigned. It comes only from influence, and that can't be mandated. It must be earned. The only thing a title can buy is a little time, either to increase your level of influence with others or to erase it. You may be given a title of leadership, but it's not enough to be given the title of being there. You have to earn the right to have that title. You have to earn the respect that title commands with the people who you are tasked with leading. And that's where Jeff Saturday finds himself. And there is biblical application to this. And so if you look in Matthew chapter 7, this is like near the end of Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. Jesus' famous sermon. And in verse 1 is one of the most famous verses we all hear quoted all the time. It's don't judge, or you too will be judged. You will be judged by the same standard with which you judge others, and you will be measured by the same measure you use. Right? That's that. Drop on down to the next section where verse 7 through 12 is. And then in this section, Jesus is talking about that we have to seek and knock. He's essentially saying if you want to follow God, there is going to be some action required on your part. Notice the verb seek, knock. It implies action. Then at the very end of that, in verse 12, this is what Jesus says. He says, therefore, whatever you want others to do for you, do also the same for them. For this is the law and the prophets. Whatever you want others to do for you. This is how you go about earning influence. This is how you go about earning the respect of other people around you. And this applies especially to someone being a leader, but it has application to our everyday lives, no matter what role we're in. but especially if someone else is a leader. This is an expectation of someone who's a leader. Whatever you want others to do for you, do also the same for them. So whatever you are expecting or want others to do for you in your life, if you're wanting people to follow you and do things a certain way, then this is what you have to do to earn that. You have to be the one that does it first. If you want other people to respect you, you have to respect them first. Hey, they may be a terrible person, but they're still a person. They may not be worthy of the respect that you're required to give to them, but you give it to them anyway. Demonstrating to that person, this is what I'm showing to you, what I'm giving to you in this moment, this respect, this is what I'm expecting in return. And you might not see them give it to you right away. They may never give it to you, but you've at least done your job as a leader to display that to them. But see, in this section again, it's an action verb. Do. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. You see, leaders don't get a different set of rules than everybody else. They have the same rules. It's just they're judged by a stricter adherence to those. Because they're the ones that are supposed to set the example. They're the ones that set the tone. And if you want other people to walk the path that you're following, that you're going, you want them to follow you down it, then you have to be willing to walk down it first and show them the way. Paul kind of catches on to this idea in Philippians chapter 2, verse 3. He says, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility consider others more important than yourselves." And what Paul's not saying that you're not important. You are important. Your feelings are important. Your thoughts are important. You're a person made in the image of God. So therefore you have value. You are important. You have a purpose for what you're doing and where you are right now. We live in a country where we have rights. But sometimes to be an effective leader and to gain influence of other people, not sometimes, all the times, if you want to gain influence, if you want to impact other people's lives, then you have to recognize that yes, you have rights. Yes, you are important. But I am willing to submit who I am. I'm willing to submit my rights in order to further you and push you forward. I'm willing to surrender my rights as a person, my rights as this role, and I'm willing to yield it to you in order to empower you to step up and be the person that I need you to be, but also that God's calling you to be. And that's ultimately what leadership is. Leadership is realizing that you can't do it by yourself. You're only as good as the team members around you. And those teammates around you, they're only going to get better if you trust them and allow them to do the work that you're needing them to do. You have to trust them with that. But sometimes in order to accomplish that, you have to lay aside what you think is the best way to do it. What points you think are critical about it. That doesn't mean that they're not. But you can share things over and over again, but until the other person sees it for themselves, they gain the experience to recognize the words that you're saying are important. It doesn't matter what you say. So sometimes being a good leader is realizing that yes, you're important, yes, you have rights, and yes, your ways may be the right ways, but yielding and allowing others to gain the experience that you've already gained, gain the knowledge that you've already gained. Hey, yes, you must be something to have the title that you have. You've earned it. You're not there by mistake. It's not an accident. You know the work you put in. You know what got you there. But understand, just because you got that title, just because you earn it, it doesn't mean that others are automatically going to see you as that. It will take time for other people to see you and recognize you as a leader that you are in the position that you have. even if it's a title. The title is a leadership position. Now, understand, we don't have, you and I, when it comes to God, we don't have to earn God's favor. God loves us. He's proud of us just for being His children. God loves you. He's proud of you. He is pulling for you. He's good, and He wants to do good things in your life. So, let's be honest, there's nothing we could really ever do to earn God's favor anyway. But God doesn't require that. We don't have to earn His favor. But you and I, just because we don't have to earn God's favor doesn't mean that we are free to reject other people, to ignore how they feel, ignore their importance. Doesn't mean that we don't have to earn their respect. So much of the attitude right now is I don't care what other people think of me. And there's some truth in that statement. I mean, if you're confident in who you are as a person, and you fully see who God's purpose for you, and well, as fully as you can see at this side of heaven, if you recognize who you are in Christ, that's awesome. That's great. And to that extent, yes, it doesn't matter what other people think about you. You know where you are with Jesus, and you know who you are. That's good. That's important. However, if you're in a leadership position where your task is to lead others and you want to influence them to be able to do that effectively, you have to be willing to earn their respect. And so in some regard, that means, yes, you're going to have to care what they think. Well, hey, if you enjoyed that devotional, if it made any sense to you, I encourage you to check out the Ravenna Church of the Nazarene here in Ravenna, Kentucky. That's where I'm the pastor at. Our services are 11 a.m. Sunday morning, Eastern time here in Ravenna, Kentucky. We're located at 530 Main Street. You can find us at ravnaz.com. You can if you can't join us in person, I encourage you to follow us on Facebook, and we live stream the services there. And you can also find the sermons on the Dirt Pass Sermon Podcast. All right, let's move on to the Sunday afternoon game picks. The Fighting Genos, the Seattle Seahawks, the team that's getting everybody believing, was up against the Cardinals. I picked the Seahawks because they're one of my bandwagon teams right now, because that's what you do when your team is terrible, right? When your team is terrible, you begin to look around and say, okay, I'm still a fan of my current team, but who can I cheer for that's doing well, and I can ride with them all the way to the end? And that team for me this year has turned out to be the Seahawks, which is unlikely for me because I'm a Notre Dame fan. So I have painful memories associated with Pete Carroll. But what's happening with Seattle right now, to make the quarterback change that they made, to lose the players that they've lost, to be kind of down and out, and yet here they are, fighting for everything that they have in the NFC West, up against the Cardinals, and pulling off yet another win with Geno Smith at quarterback. I mean, it's been incredible. It's an amazing run. I am a believer. So Seattle Seahawks know that I am a temporary fan for right now. I'm excited for you. I'm excited for what's happening with the Seahawks. All right, Rams versus the Buccaneers. I picked the Rams to win this one. But to be honest, I'm not really high on either one of the teams. I'm still not convinced either one of them is truly a playoff team. I got this one wrong, and some things just never change. And one of the things that never changes is Tom Brady ruining my football day. That's just part of my life as a Colts fan and whatnot through the years. So I went 1-1 in the Sunday afternoon picks. There's only 2 games in the afternoon slot. What's up with that? That was just weird. And they weren't even... Well, I guess they were okay games, but still. I'm not sure what's going on with the schedule, but that was just weird. Anyway, 1-1, 7-4 on the day, so I'm still above 500. Good things. All right, on to my team struggle. How did things work out for the Don't Be a Succop squad that I am managing through this fantasy football season? I'm in a 12-team PPR league with custom scoring. I was 2-6 heading into this matchup. I know what you're thinking. You're 2-6 and you're doing a podcast about fantasy football. Yep, because it's 2022 and any idiot can say anything. But I'm 2-6. I'm last place in my division. But the good news coming into the weekend was there are 4 teams at 3-5 and 2 at 4-4. So I'm not completely out of the playoff picture yet. But winning is a must from here on forward. And it's only going to get more complicated because my schedule is getting really, really tough these final 5 weeks of our regular fantasy football season. And keep in mind, I'm only doing this podcast until my season's up. So hopefully I can find a way to make the playoffs so I can keep giving you more of these videos. Anyway, All right, so this is how my team did. I made the change at quarterback. I picked up Geno Smith in a trade. And I'm telling you, I am a believer. 275 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's 70 points in our league because you get partial points for completions, points for yards, and your typical fantasy football stuff. But great pickup from adding Geno Smith. Made a difference. Running back 1, Austin Eckler. He scored me 39 points, and it was yet another multiple touchdown game from him. He's one of those guys that I'm just going to leave in there no matter really who the matchup is. Just keep rolling with him. Running back 2, I had Jamal Williams going up against the Packers. He had 81 yards rushing on 24 carries. No touchdown this time, but still a solid outing. And one other thing I've noticed about Williams is he either gets 2 touchdowns in the game or he gets no touchdowns in the game. And this is just his week to get no touchdowns. But he still scored me some solid points. Receiver 1, I have Tyreek Hill. And he was up against the Bears. And I was concerned because the Bears were ranked number 6 against opposing receivers. But he still has 7 catches on 8 targets for 143 yards and a touchdown. So fantastic out of Tyreek Hill. That's why you don't take him out. And I would say the same thing with Waddle. If you have Waddle, don't take him out no matter who he's up against. Those two, I think it doesn't matter how good the defense is. You're not going to be able to stop both of those guys the entire game. One of them is going to bust it loose on you. All right, receiver 2. This guy, Keenan Allen. I hope you get better soon. I really do. I had you ready to go at receiver 2. I believe that you were going to come back and play again this week, and then things just didn't work out. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know what the setback is. I'm sorry to hear. Hopefully you can get back on the field soon. But man, I was in a fantasy football dilemma. So it's kind of late in the week to be picking up somebody from free agency. So I had to roll with what I had on the bench, which was Paris Campbell. And he scored 5 points in a PPR league that gets partial points for targets too. He scored 5 points. But considering how the Colts offense did on Sunday, this was better than expected. I mean, the entire Colts offense had negative 2 yards in the first quarter. And Paris Campbell ended up with 5 points at the end of the game. I think that was pretty solid for me, given what it could have been. Tight end, I have Dalton Schultz, but he was on bye this week, as the Cowboys were. So I went with Ingram from the Jaguars up against the Raiders. Unfortunately, Ingram left with a lower back injury for a bit. I think he was able to come back in and play in the game, but he only had 1 catch. Not a very good outing, so I'm looking forward to Schultz being back. Hopefully Ingram can his back doesn't bother him too much moving forward, though. My flex spot. Boy, was I happy to get this guy back. James Conner was back in the lineup after missing several weeks due to rib injury. He had 7 rushes and 5 catches in the first game back, which it came out to right around 18 points for me. Not bad. I had Michael Carter that I could have put in here at the flex, but I was not excited about his matchup against the Bills, which that turned out to be faulty. He had a pretty decent game considering our league. But anyway, on to my defense. Colts versus the Patriots. I picked up the Colts. While the Colts offense gave me lots of concern heading into this one, the Colts defense, however, had me licking my chops looking at the matchup. They had looking at their sack numbers, looking at their turnover numbers. I was excited about them being matched up against the Patriots offense, and I was not disappointed. They had 1 forced fumble and 4 sacks. So my main question right now is, can the Colts defense play on the offensive side too? Can you guys play both ways? Because we may need you to. All right, my kicker is Jason Myers. I didn't even record how many points he scored. I don't know. He's a kicker. If he scored in double digits, woohoo, right? I'm pretty sure that's what happened. But hey, I won for the 2nd week in a row. That's back-to-back wins, and I'm now to 3-6. How about that? Now, the good thing is, I'm in a league where 7 teams make the playoffs of the 12. So I have to get to that 7th spot if I want to make the playoff run. And right now, according to the playoff projections, I am at number 9 for the moment. But the good news is, there are 4 teams at 4 and 5, so they're 1 game ahead of me, and there are 3 teams at 3 and 6. So there is a chance to move up. Matter of fact, seeds 5, 6, and 7 are maybe separated by a game, right? So they're right now, while I'm at 9, I could end up as high as 5, which is a long shot considering who I play down the stretch. I'm playing 3 of the top 4 for the final 5 weeks. I'm playing the top 3 teams in our league. So it's going to be an uphill climb. But there is a chance. All right. How did I do in my primetime picks? Titans versus the Chiefs. I picked the Chiefs to win. Chiefs win. I can't believe Mahomes threw for 400 yards in that game. I mean, I know he had 60-something attempts. But as I watched that game, there wasn't your typical big bomb pass that the Chiefs would get that racks up his yards. There was a lot of underneath throws, a lot of medium range throws. So in a lot of ways, I was surprised that he had over 400 yards at the end of the game, even with the 60-something attempts. But he's Mahomes. Things happen. So I picked the Chiefs to win. Chiefs won that one. Ravens versus the Saints. I picked the Ravens to win, even though the Saints were coming off that shutout of the Raiders. But let's just face it, the Ravens' offense is a whole different creature than the Raiders. And what happened exactly the way I thought. The Saints fell behind early, and they played catch up, but they're going up against a rushing team in the Ravens. And especially there in the fourth quarter, it's just really hard to get a stop, really hard to get the ball back and give yourself a chance when you're up against a team that runs at you from all angles, that just comes out and hits you in the mouth. And that's what the Ravens do. That's what the Ravens have always done. It's just different looking now. But I picked the Ravens, and the Ravens won that one. So I went 2-0 in the primetime games, 9-4 in the week, which puts me at 78-57 on the season. 21 games above 500. How about that? Woohoo! All right, how'd you do? How did your fantasy football team work out? I'd love to hear. Post in the comments. Tell me how your junior league, are you going to make the playoffs? Do you need any help? Or maybe you have some faith questions or something like that you would like to ask me. You can post those in the comments. Or you can go to the dirtpastsermonpodcast.com and fill out the contact sheet there. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, or you can go and like the Go There on Fourth Facebook page. That's brand new. Go like that page, and you can find me there. All right. Well, we'll be back on Thursday to make our picks for Week 10 and figure out how am I going to set my lineup as I get ready to continue my playoff push. As always, be sure to check out the Dirt Pass Sermon Podcast. That's my weekly sermon put in podcast form from here at Ravenna Church of the Nazarene, and you can find that wherever, on whatever podcast app that you would like to find it. And also consider signing up for Patreon. Become a member. You'll get access to some behind-the-scenes things, as well as some reaction videos and that type of stuff, just by signing up, becoming a member. And I'm planning on doing a Bible study as soon as I hit the off season.